We grow up. Around our country. Johnny and his mule. In the mountains there is a little village. The big mountains all around the village make it look even smaller than it really is. There are no more than 20 houses in this village, a few stores, a post office, a bank, a schoolhouse, and one or two other buildings. All the children in the village come to this little schoolhouse. One of the mountain boys came to this schoolhouse too. Johnny lived far back in the hills, many miles from the village. He had to get up very early so that he could get to the school before 9 o'clock. Even though the walk over the mountains was very long, Johnny was never late for school. But one day at the end of the school year, Johnny was late. Ding dong! The last bell was ringing. Johnny was not at school. It was nearly 9 o'clock and Johnny was not there. 9 o'clock went by, but Johnny did not come. 10 o'clock rolled around and still no Johnny was to be seen. It was very late now, and Johnny had not come to school. The children and the teacher began to be worried about Johnny. But a little later there was a noise outside the door. It opened slowly, and Johnny walked into the room and took his seat. "Johnny," cried the teacher, "it is after 10 o'clock. What became of you? Why are you so late?" "I just could not help it, Miss Mary," said Johnny, and he looked as though he would cry at any minute. "But where were you? Tell me that," said Miss Mary. "I got into the village very early this morning, Miss Mary," began Johnny, "in good time for school, but I spent a few minutes in the village. As I went by the post office, I saw something going on. There were many people standing in front of the post office, so I stopped to watch. While I was standing there, I saw that a man wanted to sell an old mule. The man began calling, 'What will you give me for this mule? What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? Come on, come on.' The man kept calling to the people, but no one said anything. I thought the man would never sell the old mule if someone did not say something. Just to get things started, I called out, 'I say 5 cents. I was sure that someone would go higher. I knew it took a lot of money to buy a mule, even an old mule like that one. But no one went higher. At last the man said, 'All right, my boy, where is your 5 cents?' So I spent my 5 cents and bought the mule. Everyone laughed when I handed my 5 cents to the man. And there I stood, holding the mule by a rope. I did not know what to do with him. About the only thing I could think of was to take him along to school with me. So I started for the schoolhouse with the mule. I soon learned why the man was glad to sell me that mule for 5 cents. After we had gone a little way, the mule stopped. I tried every way to get him to go along, but he just balked. He was a balker. Lots of other people tried to make him go, but no, that mule would not go until he was ready. After a while, he walked another little way, and then he balked again. I spent 2 hours trying to get that creature to the schoolhouse. I tried my best to get here sooner, but I could not, Miss Mary." "Why, Johnny," cried Miss Mary, "I never heard such a story." "If you don't believe it, Miss Mary, you just go out and look at the window," said Johnny. The teacher looked out the window, and so did all the children. And there was a mule tied to a tree. "Well, I cannot believe it. But there's the mule, said Miss Mary. A mule for 5 cents. When the last bell started ringing, the children ran to the schoolyard to see the mule. What are you going to do with your bocker, Johnny? Asked his little friend Matthew. Johnny did not feel at all happy. Matthew, I just don't know what to do with him, he said. Maybe I could sell him. I don't want him. If I spent 2 hours getting him to school, how long will it take me to get him home? Hold on there, Johnny, said Matthew. You can never tell about a bocker. Now, sometimes bockers start right off. This one may be ready to go by now. Maybe he thinks he has balked about long enough. Maybe he will start right off. Let's see if he will. Maybe he will, said Johnny. I will try him. He took the mule's rope and tried to start him, but the mule was not ready to go, and he did not start right off. Johnny pulled him harder. He pulled until he thought he would pull his arms off, but the mule would not move. Give me a hold and I'll help you pull, said Matthew. I'll help too, said Nancy Bell. Then Nancy Bell and Matthew and Johnny pulled, but the mule did not move one step. After a while, the teacher came out of the schoolhouse. Can you get the mule to start? She called. No, he just will not go, cried all the children. Maybe we should try something else, said the teacher. What can we do to make him move? My father once said he had a bocker, said Nancy Bell. He would pat him on the neck, and then the bocker would start right off. And so Johnny went up to the mule's neck and patted him softly. But the mule did not move. Pat him harder, said Nancy Bell. Pat him a lot. Maybe he does not know what you mean. So Johnny patted the mule again. Clap, clap, clap. He patted the mule much harder than he had before. When the animal made no move to start, Johnny patted him as hard as he could. Smack, smack, smack. But the mule only rolled his eyes and wobbled his ears, and he even looked as though he were going to lie down. My father once had a balking mule, said another girl. He used to get behind the balker with a long board and push him. Maybe that is just what the balker needs, said Miss Mary. Where can we find a board? Nancy Bell said, There is a long board in front of the schoolhouse. The children got the board. They put it behind the mule and pushed. They pushed and they pushed, but the mule would not go. Nancy Bell said, Maybe this mule feels hungry. If we got a piece of corn and held it in front of him, maybe he would move. Johnny ran to the nearest house and asked for an ear of corn. He held it out to the mule. The mule was hungry. He reached his head out to the corn. All the children kept quiet. The mule took one step toward Johnny. Johnny backed away, holding the corn just out of reach. The mule balked for a minute. Then he took another step toward Johnny. Then he took another step, and another, and another. The children clapped their hands and laughed when the mule began to move. He's going, cried the children. The teacher held the mule's rope while Johnny danced on ahead with the corn. Through the village they went, clip-clop, clip-clop, clip-clop. Over the mountain road they started as fast as they could go, but still Johnny was not very happy. The more he thought about the mule, the more he wished he had his 5 cents back. As he came nearer and nearer home, Johnny began to be very worried. "Miss Mary, there is another thing about a balking mule that I don't like," he said. "A balker is always hungry. This balker could eat us out of house and home in no time. Why did I ever let that man sell me a balking mule?" When Johnny and the teacher and the mule got home, Johnny's mother and his father were sitting on the steps of the front porch. When they saw Johnny and the teacher and the mule coming clip-clop up the road, their eyes nearly rolled out of their heads. "What is that coming in?" said Mother. Johnny said, "It's a mule, a balking mule. I bought him for 5 cents. "Oh my," cried Mother. "Whatever can we do with a balking mule?" Father did not say anything. He only looked at the animal. Mother said a lot, though. She did not like balking mules at all. Mother thought the man should be made to take the mule back and give Johnny his 5 cents. "You can do something with 5 cents," said Mother, "but you cannot do a thing with the balking mule." Still Father said nothing. The sun was setting by this time. It was too late for the teacher to go back to the village, so she spent the night with the Johnny's family. That evening there were chicken and fresh rolls and cold milk for supper. And oh, how good everything was. But Johnny was not very hungry. He did not eat much chicken, and he did not eat any rolls. He just thought about the balking mule. After supper, everyone sat around the fire, which was burning in the old stove fireplace. Mother and Father and Miss Mary talked and talked. Johnny sat all by himself. He was very quiet, but he kept thinking about the mule. Then he said, "Father, that balking mule is not going to help us very much around the farm." "Oh," cried Father, "I can teach that old mule to plow. Yes, I know a little trick that will teach a balking mule to plow." "What is the trick?" cried Johnny and Miss Mary together. "Wait until tomorrow morning," said Father. "Look out of the window when you wake up and you will find out." Soon it was bedtime. Miss Mary was given the best bedroom. Johnny climbed up to his little room under the roof. He was feeling much happier, and so he went right off to sleep. The next morning, Johnny woke up early and looked out of the window. The balking mule was at work. He was pulling a plow through the cornfield. Behind the plow was Father. He looked up and saw Johnny. "He is a fine big mule," cried Father. "And he has not balked once. I knew I could teach that mule to work. I thank you for him." The mule did not look up. He did not look to the right or to the left. He was looking ahead at the ear of corn that hung on the end of a pole. It hung just out of reach of his hungry mouth. Join me next time for more adventures.